Welcome everybody. I'm pleased to have the opportunity today to present Cipca, Crisis Intervention Program for Children and Adolescents. Dr. Nizar already mentioned something about the background. That's why I'm going to just describe a little bit more about the background before coming to the contents of the program and how we developed it, and then our pilot study from the beginning when we applied the project in the hope, and then something about the follow-up that our presenters are going to mention more details. I know that some of you probably want to interrupt and has questions about the terminology, the content, the instrument, and because all the concept is connected together, I will be very happy if all the questions will be left to the last, because I think many of your wondering and questions from the start will be answered by the next presentations. Then you are most welcome, of course, to discuss, to have questions, and we will be very happy to have access to experiences too. I think we are, with Cipca, opening a window or a door to a new subject in psychiatry, and that's vaccination. Up to date, we have no vaccination in psychiatry. Why? There is vaccination in all medicine, and psychiatry, because it's a specialty within medicine, we have to think about that. And we know that vaccination has been the instrument to eradicate most of the infectious diseases from the childhood and up. And we have trauma as an external factor. Let us see what happens to a child when the child becomes exposed to an external factor which come in the mind of the child, leading to disturbances in information processing. And that's what we know up to date. But we know also the science is rapidly developing, especially regarding technology. And we know that post-traumatic psychopathology is not only limited to PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And we know also, as you hear in the introduction lectures in this Congress, that about 50% of all psychopathology start before the age of 60. And early identification of the disturbances after exposure to adverse life events, among others traumatic also, are considered within stress research. And that's from the biological point of view. I think it's time to reach stress theories from the childhood trauma side also. There is a lot of research. If we are combining the two points of view, from the stress point of view to the childhood trauma, then we are going to discover that we are talking about the same thing. That's why I usually associate our instrument, our intervention, to the background, to the evidence. Recent evidence is brought up to the Cipca development from these sciences. You can see first aid. There is not only the first aid in the medical science, we have just now psychological first aid. It has been developed within the WHO, and it has been used widely in order to take care of people who have just been in psychological distress or psychological crisis. Well, prevention is the science, as I mentioned. It is developing, and day after day, the science is showing that prevention is always better than treatment. So we can bring much of that knowledge to the development of new instruments. And we know vaccination and immunology is a very big science and has a background which has been established very well, and the human being have taken a lot of benefit from that method of prevention. Psychopathology, as I mentioned, it is not only PTSD, but we know that PTSD was the first diagnosis which was related to a specific event. At the beginning, it was only adult-focused, as usual, in many things. The adults, and particularly men, are those who are coming to the benefit at the first. Then it is women, then it is time for children. So PTSD was discovered among men, and then the women were included, and now we know much about psychopathology which is developed during childhood. So, consequences of trauma are very much more than during childhood than during adulthood. The chronicity, the complexity of the disturbances are causing very more damage to the person and to the society. Prenatal diagnosis also is rapidly developing diagnostics, and it leads to early intervention in childhood, and that is leading gradually to interventions as early as possible, even prenatal. Why we can use more rapid development within child and adolescent psychiatry? Because it is multidisciplinary. Many professions are similarly important as medicine. You cannot work effectively, adequately effective as a child psychiatrist if you don't have a team with you, composing of psychologists, clinical psychologists, social workers, pedagogues, nurses, and so on. Cognitive behavioral psychotherapy have been shown the most effective way to interfere with psychopathology. It has the highest evidence that it is effective, and we can use the techniques of cognitive therapy both in interventions, early interventions among children who are exposed to trauma, to have intervention and even to have treatment. Salatogenesis, as you know, is gradually taking place instead of pathogenesis. It means that we are looking at the science of health more and more than the science of pathology. And we know that the recent trauma theories, as I mentioned, are approaching many other disciplines, among other stress theories in the biology, but even other professions than medicine. What's the aim of Cipca? The effectiveness of Cipca is aimed at saving time, and it is cost-effective during crisis situations. It must help us to have both identification of disorders, disturbances, and have adequate access to treatment as early as possible. It has an evidence-based methodology. That means it is research-friendly from the start. That's why we have today's 2 years follow-up, because our project in the beginning was not research, but we could use the instruments in order to have evaluations which are qualified to be research. Preventing post-traumatic psychopathology is the major aim of this intervention, as I mentioned, and the aim, the last final aim, is to help the child develop healthy personality. The structure of Cipca is consisting of 1 week training for trainers in group, 2 facilitators train up to 30 trainers together, every 2 trainers train up to 30 group leaders, every 2 group leaders then lead 30 children in 1 hour single group intervention. The target is up-to-date children and adolescents in crisis situations. Probably a day will come when even adults can have benefit of this intervention. The function of Cipca is an early crisis intervention. At the same time, we do screening of any already identified or developed psychological distress in order to be adequately treated as early as possible. It will be consisting of spontaneous expression of emotions. Nothing here is obligatory for the child. Everything is coming spontaneously. When the child in a group gets support to start speaking about negative events, negative experiences, it leads usually to other children get the support to start speaking about similar experiences, both regarding describing the events, similar events, memories, and emotional expression. It leads to a positive cognitive restructuring. That means the negative thoughts related to the traumatic events will be exchanged and replaced by positive thoughts. It will lead to an individual assessment for those children who already show psychological distress symptoms in order to get adequate treatment. We use instruments, as I say, in order to measure every moment in the Cipca in such a way that it's possible to get access to data to be used for research. The main instrument here as a screening and to estimate change over time is child behavior checklist. How many of you are familiar with CBCL? Good, good, very nice. That's also a confirmation tool. This instrument is widely used. It is translated to more than 65 languages, and it is updated all the time. There are several syndromes which have been developed based on the CBCL data. Among others, we have used a PTSD index from the CBCL, which is published. Then we have crisis expression guidelines. This is the core instrument used in the group intervention. This is the guidelines that is based on the cognitive techniques in order to help the child express emotions and verbalize experiences.